Are there any questions? Opposition Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, the justice system is in a state of crisis, and the President of the Criminal Lawyers Association has said the court system is entirely overwhelmed. The NT Police Association has said an overload of remand prisoners in Palmerston Watchhouse is officially out of control. Meanwhile, in the first 5 months of this year, compared to the same time last year, Chief Minister, assault offences, including domestic violence assaults, are up right across the territory. Sexual offences are up more than 22%, and property offences were down slightly, but property damages and offences were up 19%. Chief Minister, you promised Territorians you would fix crime and make the community safer. Instead, crime is going up under your watch and your leadership, and the justice system is bursting at the seams. Chief Minister, when will you admit to Territorians that your law and order policies are a failure under your leadership?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And my goodness, what a joke is the Labor opposition. They have governed the Northern Territory for 19 of the last 23 years. We've been in government for 11 months and they're asking me, why is crime high? Well, I can buy you a mirror, Opposition Leader, because I can tell you right now, as the first law officer under the previous government, you as Attorney General, followed by Chancey Pake, the mate sitting behind you, they oversaw the very worst laws, the very worst outcomes.
Point of order. Member for Gwadja.
Standing Order 1, Madam Speaker, I'd ask you to make a ruling. The Chief Minister's been here for long enough. She should know to refer to members by their title, not their personal name.
Take your seat, please. Please refer to members by their title.
So, Opposition Leader, you as First Law Officer and Attorney General and your mate, the member for Gwadja, failed Territorians, you failed to keep people safe, you failed to keep children safe, you failed to get kids to school, you were also the Education Minister, you were the Aboriginal Affairs Minister, you were the Housing Minister between the both of you. Look at the long, tragic list of disasters that you single-handedly left behind. And you want to talk about crime, it is our #1 priority. And this morning I gave a 20-minute speech detailing the reform that is to come with our police public safety officers, our making sure that Territorians have more ways to defend themselves with a 12-month OC spray rollout from the 1st of September. On urgency, we'll move youth justice legislation this week. We've got Youth Justice Tranche 2 coming. We've got Traffic Act changes coming. The list goes on and on. But do you know what we've done in 11 months that you couldn't do in 20 years, Opposition Leader? That's put the rights of victims above the rights of offenders. And your offender-focused policies and all of the apologists who hang out with you should hang their head in shame, because victims out there are sick and tired of being put last under Labor, and that is why, Madam Speaker, there is a CLP government. Now, this Opposition Leader wants to cherry-pick crime statistics, and she can do that, Madam Speaker, but across the board, we have seen, when you compare January to May this year, a nice chunk of time to make a comparison with January to May last year, things are turning around. We've turned around a 20-year Labor legacy in 11 months. Robbery across the Territory, down 29%. House break-ins territory-wide, down 31%. Commercial break-ins territory-wide, down 16%. Other theft, 15%. In Alice Springs, we actually had DV go down 7% for the same period, and DV down 4% and assaults down 7%. So is it job done? Absolutely not, and that's why we're in Parliament fighting for people's right to be safe, for our kids, for us now and for the future. But what we know is that what we are doing is working, and we will always put the rights of people to be safe above the rights of offenders. And the apologists and all of the people who just want to set criminals free, we say to you, you have no place in the future of the Territory.
Member for Blaine, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, I receive regular complaints from my constituents in Blaine about crime and antisocial behaviour in problem public housing sites. These are well-known hotspots for crime and police call-outs. Our public housing safety officers play an important role in managing problem public housing, but their powers are limited and they end up calling 000 and waiting for police to attend anyway. Chief Minister, can you please explain how the introduction of our government's new police public safety officers, which will include the transition of public housing safety officers to sworn police, will help to reduce crime in our public housing areas? Thank you.
Chief Minister.
Thank you, Member for Blaine, and I certainly hope the opposition leader is listening to this one. She seems to not understand that it is our government that is putting the rights of people to be safe above everything else. And unlike the opposition leader, Member for Blaine, I know you understand it, because people in the community of Blaine, people in the electorate of Blaine, they want to be safe when they go to the shop, they want to live safe, they want their kids to be safe in the park, they just want to live their lives free. And they can't do that after 20 years of Labor, Member for Blaine. But we have taken strong action, and the next tranche of reform, obviously we've passed Declan's law, stronger warning powers, post and boast ram raid, youth justice this week. We've done a lot of legislative reform and backed in our police. But there is a next phase to what the CLP is doing to make the Territory a safer place to live, work, visit and invest. And part of that is our police public safety officers. We know that we have auxiliary streams within police, and then we have transit officers who have some powers on bus networks. We then have housing officers who have some powers in housing. And antisocial behaviour in public housing right across the Northern Territory is at out of control levels. And we are doing that work to have a new policy, to put in place new rules and hold people accountable for having a home paid for by the taxpayer. And everyone around them should be able to live in peace and not have to deal with the antisocial behaviour that too often we see. And so by allowing the transit safety officers and the public housing safety officers to have the powers they need to support early intervention on antisocial behaviour, we know we're going to get better outcomes for all Territorians. And so by December this year, we will have a new training program through the police force. It will be a new stream of policing, and those transit, housing and auxiliary streams will then be trained to be able to have police powers and resources. They will be tapped into the system. They won't be calling 000 anymore when they come to concerns and issues that your constituents are raising, Member for Blaine. There will be police turning up. And that comes at great comfort to the community. We will have the PPSOs deployed across the Territory at bottle shops if you're in Catherine, Tennant or Alice, in public housing complexes, in public spaces, at public events, and they will have important powers that allow them to get the job done. Currently, it's a real mishmash, Member for Blaine, and it's not fair on the hard-working people who do those roles. We know that our housing officers, for example, have limited powers to issue directions, limited powers to ask for names, and they end up having to call 000 anyway. This will circumvent all of that. It will mean the right people are rocking up the first time with the right powers to be supported by a government that backs them in to drive down antisocial behaviour. And so we support very much our transit and housing and auxiliaries. They do important work, and we're about to make them an even better, bigger part of our reducing crime strategy.
Member for Daly, what is your question?
Thank you, Chief Minister. In the 5 months to May, thank you, Madam Speaker, I should say. My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, in the 5 months to May compared to the same time last year, total assault offences in Katherine went up by almost 30%. There were 624 property offences, including a 25% increase in property damage. Your government's answer to rising crime in Katherine is to move a taxi rank. Chief Minister, you told Territorians, including the people of Katherine, that you were going to fix crime and make the community safer. Chief Minister, when are you going to get serious about the rising crime in Katherine and not brush it off or dodge talking about it?
Chief Minister.
You want to talk about brushing it off, Deputy Opposition Leader? I'll tell you someone who brushes things off. The lady sitting next to you, the Opposition Leader who could not even be bothered to visit the Coffee Club, the biggest cafe in Katherine. The first thing you see when you drive into that beautiful place after the bridge, there it is, Coffee Club. Nikki and her amazing team serving amazing food and beverages all day, every day. And the Opposition Leader who was in Katherine at the time, because I spoke to her very, very shortly before I went to visit Nikki myself, couldn't even be bothered to stop in there and see how the staff had been going after being battered and bruised during an offence. Now, don't come in here and lecture me about crime. You're leading with your chin. It's absolutely unbelievable. This is people who sat here for years and years and years, failing to deliver for their communities, for the broader Northern Territory community, who voted time after time to weaken the law, to allow offenders to have more rights than victims. They even agreed with the giant, what was it, like a $37 million payout that went to youth criminals with $0 of restitution attached to it for the victims. I mean, these are people who are tried and tested failures in law and order. Now, Madam Speaker, we are a government that is committed to this issue, and our journey has just begun. We are 11 months into a 4-year term, and we are, with all of our might, making sure we are supporting corrections with the master plan, supporting our courts, supporting legal aid. Hey, we'd even support NAJA if they spent more time doing their job instead of worrying about how I do mine. We've got police. Oh, listen to the sounds of the apologists opposite, Madam Speaker. You guys can all go have lunch later after question time. Don't worry. You can all talk about how horrible it is that we put criminals in prison. I mean, I just couldn't imagine being at that dinner party. But, Madam Speaker, this is work that is being done. And actually in Katherine, we've seen commercial break-ins drop 36% in that period and theft drop 17% in that period. And we have an exceptional team of police down there. We just sent, I think it was about another 9 police officers down to Katherine from the latest squad, and they have been doing amazing public-facing, proactive policing. They've been doing some really good targeted operations with public housing safety officers, doing a great job there, with 6 arrests in one location, 2 protective custodies. They've been issuing infringement notices. They've gone really hard on banned drinker orders, with hundreds and hundreds of banned drinkers orders being issued. They're working with businesses around how they can protect themselves. There is a lot of work being done, and we have not said that it's over. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. But Territorians, when they have a chance to believe us as a government on whether we care about crime or you, I know who they're picking every day of the week.
Member for Goyder.
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Corrections. Minister, can you provide an update to the House on how the Whanokauari CLP government is delivering on its commitment to make the 2025 a year of action, certainty and security by restoring accountability in the youth justice system? And Minister, what legislative reforms are being introduced to better protect youth justice officers, ensure victims are prioritised and send a clear message that serious youth offending will no longer be met with weak consequences?
Minister for Corrections.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Goyder for such an important question, because he understands how important it is to put the rights of the victim first. He understands that this government here is here to protect Territorians. Community safety is their #1 priority. Madam Speaker, this week we'll be introducing legislation which will be debated on urgency, which will strengthen the youth justice, support frontline staff and hold serious youth offenders to account. Our reforms in relation to the Youth Justice Act are long overdue, Madam Speaker. They are going to be designed to ensure that detention centres are places which are kept safe, which will offer rehabilitation and which, more importantly, will give the youth justice officers a place where they can work and go home safely. This is about giving the youth justice officers more power, more restraints and removing detention as a last resort. We need to focus on keeping the community safe. Madam Speaker, we know the youth justice officers manage very volatile and complex behaviours, and we want to ensure that they can do their job safely and have all the tools available to them to make sure they can do it safely and effectively and go home to their families. Madam Speaker, youth justice officers will have more authority, more discretion and will be able to do their job knowing that this government has their back. We support them. Madam Speaker, they'll have the ability to use spit guards and to prevent reasonable escape and damage and disorder. Madam Speaker, can you believe that the previous government put laws in place that if someone was escaping a youth justice facility, the youth justice officers had to sit back and watch. Sit back and watch while they escape or damage property. Madam Speaker, we're here to stop that. We're here to make sure that the youth justice officers have the support of the government and they can stop an escape. They can stop juveniles breaking and damaging taxpayer property, because we want to make sure that there's going to be a consequence for your behaviour If you're inside the detention centre, you're there for a reason, Madam Speaker. You'll be offered rehabilitation, you'll be offered education, but you're going to make sure that you don't damage property by the taxpayer and that the prison officers go home safe. The Commissioner for Corrections, Madam Speaker, will have clear authority to respond to emergencies, including deploying correctional officers and police where needed. Again, this is about the safety of officers, safety of the young people trying to escape. Madam Speaker, you see the size of these walls and razor wire. If they get out of control and hurt themselves, if we can stop that early, we're going to stop the damage and make sure that those young people aren't hurting themselves or hurting others. There's going to be a clear change in command so we know what the response is going to be in an emergency at a detention centre. We will consider that these young offenders will also have their full criminal history considered when they go to court. And, Madam Speaker, this is important to make sure that the community safety is our #1 priority. We want to ensure that Territorians are able to go home and go to work safely.
Member for Gwadja, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Infrastructure. Minister, the Chief Minister might have bodyguards to protect her in Alice Springs from violent assaults, but the people of Alice Springs don't. There were 1,026 assault offences against people in Alice Springs in the first 5 months of this year, including serious assaults, sexual assaults and robberies. There were 2,001 property offences in those 5 months, including more than 22% increases in property damages. This is all under your watch, despite your government's clear promises to keep the people of Alice Springs safe and that you would fix crime. Minister, what are you doing to invest in infrastructure in Alice Springs that will help prevent crime and community safety? Minister, what conversations have you had with business owners and peak bodies about what you can do as the Infrastructure Minister to improve community safety in our town? And I know you've just been passed notes by the Chief Minister to do her talking.
Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank the member for Gwadja for his question. And quite an interesting question it is, I suppose, at the end of the day too, asking me about statistics on offending that's really directed to the Chief Minister, but I'll happily answer where I can and talk about the infrastructure investment into Central Australia to support the community and to keep the community safe. I believe we've just delivered another 96 beds into the Alice Springs Correctional Centre behind G Block to be able to deal with the demand that we're seeing, of course, across the justice system. Because, as I said, we've made no apologies that, I said, if you commit an offence, the Corrections Minister has always said that he'll find a bed for you. Additionally, there are changes going on with the infrastructure master plan for corrections in Central Australia. There's effectively a new women's facility being put in at the Correctional Centre, so the women are actually going to be outside of the wire, which is actually a very, very good move, and it gives corrections the ability to provide better services and better targeted treatment programs for women, because whilst women are specifically not high-risk offenders whilst in custody, their needs are very, very different to men, and this will give corrections the ability to be able to deliver those all-important services for women. In addition to that, there's work taking place at what is the old paper bark facility outside to provide youth services, bail-supported accommodation for youth as well. And I talk to business all the time, Member for Gwadja. I'm out and about in town on a regular basis. I'm regularly walking through Yiparinya, talking to the businesses in there, seeing what's going on. And I said, the Chief Minister passed me the crime stats, and I'm happily read out some of what they are, because there is some good news in those crime stats. And as the Chief Minister said, the work is not done, but the work that we've done to date has made a significant difference in Alice Springs. Our house break-ins are down 37% for that period from last year. Those commercial break-ins are down 34%. So that's people in their homes, less break-ins, less interference in their lives, less issues, and more people feeling safe in their houses. And that reduction in commercial break-ins starts to drive our economy in Central Australia.
Take your seat, please, Minister. Member for Gwadja, what is your
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The question is, what conversations have you had with business owners about infrastructure investment improvements? And while the Minister's at it, Infrastructure Minister, if you want to talk about stats, raise the assault stats, or are you too gutless to do that?
Take your seat, please, Member for Gwadja. The Minister can answer the question. 36 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I'll continue as well we've seen thefts down at 23%. And if we talk about that same period last year, the same period this year, we've actually seen assaults down 7%, which is good to see. We do know that the DV stats aren't where we'd like to see them. We want to see that continuing down. But I said, these are early days, 11 months into a 4-year term, and we're already making significant changes to what's happening in crime in our community. People actually do say that they feel safer in their homes and they feel safer in their communities. And that speaks volumes to me that we are doing the right thing.
Member for Casuarina, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Attorney General. Attorney General, after 8 years of Labor's soft on crime policies, the CLP government has taken decisive action, restoring the presumptions against bail, strengthening youth justice laws, and putting victims first. The strongest bail laws in the country are now in place, and we are starting to see the results. House break-ins down 31%, robberies down 29%, and more serious offenders being held in custody, not walking free. But Territorians don't just want better statistics. They want to feel safe in their homes, on the streets,
please,
and in their communities. Can you please update the House on how these reforms are helping to restore safety, confidence, and justice across the Northern Territory?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Casuarina for that important question. I know I was speaking to some of your constituents at the show, and they were telling me about some of the worries they're still having with crime, but that things were starting to improve. And I think you make a really good point there about some of those laws you mentioned that we've already changed in a short 11 months. And of course, you've heard all day today already, Madam Speaker, and for the last 11 months, we are putting the rights of victims above the rights of offenders, and that is a big, big difference between this CLP government and the former Labor government. And, Madam Speaker, we're backing in a lot of the changes that we're doing, and we're starting to see that work. And, of course, victims and the community will still feel like the stats are only stats alone. There are so many more things they measure feeling safe in the community. But under our laws, more people are being refused bail. This year alone, over 3,300 people were refused bail. Madam Speaker, that's 44% more than the same time last year under Labor. So more people, our new laws are working for more people. Stronger laws means that more people are being held on remand, and the number of people on remand is up 40% compared to June last year. This shows that serious offenders are now being kept in custody, not being released back into the community. And I think that's really important for victims to know. Madam Speaker, bail is still being granted under the new bail laws, but with very tight scrutiny, and now the courts must be satisfied to a very high degree of confidence that they're not going to go and commit other offences or be in danger to the community. And as a result, we've actually seen a 44% increase in refusals of bail compared to the same time last year under the Labor. Madam Speaker, for the first time in years, we now have more sentenced adult prisoners than prisoners on remand. That is proof our reforms are working after years of Labor's neglect. We've also been developing legislation which will come on later in the year, Madam Speaker, to deal with the demand on our court system, because we know crime is still at the levels that we don't accept, and that is to increase the operation hours of the court, so looking at the weekends or later at night to meet that demand. Madam Speaker, time spent on remand is now shorter, despite more remandees. The average time spent on remand is now 136.5 days, which is 7% less days than a year ago. So still a long way to go, Madam Speaker, but that is still going in the right direction. This suggests the system is progressing people quicker than they were under Labor, with even higher numbers going through the system. We've already talked at length about the $1.5 billion into the budget for police, corrections and courts. Much needed work that needs to be happening. We're fixing Labor's legacy with CLP action, and it's a year of this action, certainty and security, Madam Speaker, and I look forward to bringing on more legislation as we go through the year.
Member for Daly, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Alcohol Policy. Minister, in the first 5 months of this year, assaults involving alcohol have risen significantly compared to the same time last year, with more than 2,000 offences recorded. Minister, this is impacting your own electorate. In Tennant Creek, in the first 5 months of the year, offences against people, including assault, sexual offences and harm offences, were up 11%. Other than scrapping the minimum floor price, which has seen alcohol-involved crimes go up, you have done absolutely nothing to improve alcohol policy. Will you admit your law and order approach isn't working and that you have failed Territorians by doing nothing to curb the misuse of alcohol in our community?
Minister for Alcohol Policy.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and it's interesting to hear such comments from the member for Daly. Given that Labor was in power for 8 years, Madam Speaker, and failed to reduce crime and address alcohol-fuelled violence, they absolutely destroyed the Territory. Absolutely destroyed the Territory, made no effort in any way whatsoever. Under Labor, we saw increases in alcohol-related offences, domestic violence, out of control right across the Northern Territory. In my electorate alone, domestic violence went up around about 100% under the out-of-touch Labor government. That not only did they serve for 8 years, in fact there was 19 out of the last 23 years under a Labor government. So we've got a lot of work to do, Madam Speaker, in regard to fixing the mess that was left behind by Labor. We've only got to go back to July 2022 when Labor, at the time, let the Stronger Futures legislation lapse. In July 2022, not only did they let it lapse, but they had no plan to tackle the alcohol-related issues right across the Northern Territory and also in Tennant Creek. In fact, what they did do, Madam Speaker, was the only thing we found out that they did.
Oh, take your seat, Minister. Opposition Leader, what is your point of order?
Standing Order 110 relevance. The question is specifically around what is the Minister doing around alcohol misuse in the Northern Territory to keep our community safer. We don't need a history lesson of the past, Minister.
Thank you. The Minister has the call. I think he was relevant. He's got plenty of time to be relevant.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And it sounds like we've hit a nerve because, to put that in context, the catching up that we need to do as a government, Madam Speaker, is absolutely extraordinary. So, as I was getting to, the only thing that Labor did do was invest in shares in an alcohol company. That's what they did. That's what they did, Madam Speaker, was they invested in shares.
Take your seat, please, Minister. What is your point of order?
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
Opposition
Standing
Leader.
Order 110 relevance. It's a very serious topic, and we've asked about what the misuse of alcohol policy is by the Minister, and we would appreciate an answer because his electorate has also asked us to ask this.
Opposition Leader, he is answering the question. It might not be to your taste, but please continue, Minister.
So, Madam Speaker, what we have done is we have brought in new laws to tackle nuisance public drinking here in the Northern Territory. We know that Labor removed drinking in public as an offence, just like they watered down many laws here in the Northern Territory. It closed rehabilitation, so people with addictions had fewer opportunities to set themselves on a new path. In my electorate alone, Madam Speaker, the former Labor government committed $5 million back in 2018 to build a new alcohol rehabilitation centre in Tennant Creek. That was 7 years ago, Madam Speaker. We're in July. 7 years ago, the Labor government promised a new rehabilitation facility in Tennant Creek to deal with alcohol addiction, treatment and rehabilitation. So when they ask what are we doing, we're working on catching up at the moment. We've introduced new public drinking laws, and I'm trying to catch up on that $5 million that Labor committed nearly 7 years ago. 7 years ago, Madam Speaker, and let me tell you and let me remind the Labor government, in the 6 years after they promised that $5 million facility, not one shovel hit the ground. So that's the Labor history when it comes to dealing with alcohol in Tennant Creek. Thank you.
Member for Wanguri, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Chief Minister. Chief Minister, many of my female constituents like to keep fit and healthy and enjoy our great outdoor lifestyle at the nearby Lee Point and Casuarina Coastal Reserve. But exercising alone in the dark can make some women anxious. Many of these women are busy working mums, wives and business owners who have to manage their exercise around their busy schedules. I also have many constituents who do shift work and often have to walk alone in the dark to and from their car.
Chief Minister, can you explain how the introduction of our government's OC spray trial will help to ease the anxiety of my constituents and provide them peace of mind when it comes to personal protection?
Chief Minister.
Thank you very much, Member for Wangari. And I just know how passionate you are about your community. You are on the ground, you are listening, you are part of that community. And I absolutely hear the feedback that you're getting, and particularly from Territory women who are really being forced to stay inside. And it's not okay. We want people enjoying our beautiful, unique Territory lifestyle. We want people being fit. We want people being healthy. And yet under Labor, after 20 years of Labor, they've been forced to make this decision. Am I going to be fit and healthy and enjoy our beautiful outside and go for a walk, or am I going to try and keep myself safe and stay at home? And that's a choice that Territory women should not be having to make. So I thank you for asking this important question, because it is some of the reasons why we are bringing in the 12-month OC trial from 1 September, because we've responded to the concern from the community, and many of which are Territory women, saying we need more opportunity to defend ourselves if we have to. Now, we don't want anyone to end up being a victim of crime. We don't want anyone to have to resort to self-defence. But the stark reality of the situation we have inherited under Labor, who were more focused on the rights of the offenders and continue to be more focused on the rights of the offenders, is that we have to do something different, and the OC spray trial is something different. Now, it's going to be strictly regulated, it's going to have a framework, and it's going to have evaluation. But from 1 September, law-abiding Territorians will be able to purchase OC spray and use it for self-defence. And this is a really important and powerful way for people to take back control of their lives as well, and give people the confidence to take back our public spaces, to take control of our health and well-being, to be out in our community. And so we're really excited about this trial. And again, the criminal apologists and Labor continue to be more worried about the offender in this situation and the poor offender getting sprayed in the eyes than they are about anything else. And it's just unbelievable. It is truly gobsmacking the way in which Labor outlines its priorities. Again, that's not a concern for us. Our concern is, how do we get Territorians enjoying our beautiful, unique lifestyle? And this is one way in which we can do something to give people that power back in their hands. So we're looking forward to the trial. Everything is on track for 1 September. And of course, people will be able to purchase the OC spray from already existing authorised firearms dealers, because they've got a strong regulatory process in place already for that. And this is something that's been trialled in WA. So we've been able to pick up all the bits out of WA that we've been able to look at and learn from in order to conduct this trial safely. But like you, Member for Wangari, I want to see more Territorians out and about taking back control of their lives and our streets, and that's why we're supporting them with this strong reform to help reduce crime.
Member for Arafura.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Public Service. Minister, before the election, the Anti-Police Association says they were repeatedly promised that your government's police retention bonus would run for over 5 years. In fact, you are only offering the bonus for this year, which means only 180 officers will receive the bonus, while a whopping 1,700 hard-working police officers will miss out. How can any public servant expect to negotiate in good faith with your government over fair and rewarding pay and conditions, while you promise one thing and then turn around and do another?
Minister for Public Service.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Arafura. First of all, the police retention bonus does not sit with the public service, it sits with the police minister, the chief minister. But as of this year, on the 3rd of February, the NTPA, there have been police consent agreement negotiations going. They have been had in good faith since the start of those negotiations. 3 offers have been made to the NTPA. Just recently, last week, those, as of the 28th of July, the final offer was put to the police, and that has actually now going out to a vote to those members. So that offer provides an average of 3.5% per annum compounding salary increase of 14.7% over 4 years, placing the NT Police remuneration package at the top in Australia, from constable to senior sergeant and second for superintendent. So this is we absolutely value our police and the hard work that they do each and every day out in our communities. We've spoken a lot today about the very hard work that they do. I spoke in my contribution this morning about the very hard work that the police do in Katherine, in my community, with their targeted reforms that they've been doing to keep my community safe. So, Member for Arafura, these negotiations, we look forward to seeing if what happens in that vote, but the revised offer that was put to these to the police was the salary increase of 4%, 4%, 3% and 3%, and that was over a 4-year term. There was the removal of the proposal to vary the housing entitlement for Darwin, increasing a number of allowances such as overtime, general policing, freight and relocation, and several other less significant improvements across those negotiations. So, as I said, those negotiations started on the 3rd of February. As of the 28th of July, that has gone out to a vote, and I look forward to the NTPA and all the police, having their say, and we'll hear what happens when the results of that vote are in. Thank you.
Member for Fong Lim. Oh, supplementary. Member for Arafura.
Minister, can you confirm negotiations will continue if the EBA is rejected by the police members?
Minister for Public Service.
The process, Member for Arafura, if that negotiation is not accepted, then it goes to the Police Arbitrary Tribunal.
Member for Fong Lim, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Deputy Chief Minister and Minister for Corrections. Minister, building a safer territory relies on a strong and supported corrections workforce. And this past weekend, I'm pleased to report I had the pleasure of joining a Team NT delegation in Auckland as part of our global worker attraction campaign to try and secure some supplementary workforce, and we had great interest in people wanting to work in our correctional services sector. Minister, I'm wondering if you can update the House on what other progress the CLP government has been making over the past 11 months to strengthen frontline capacity and particularly to improve staff safety. How has, for example, the recruitment of experienced officers from other jurisdictions like South Australia and G4S helped to support rehabilitation programs and deliver a safer, more responsive correctional services system?
Minister for Corrections.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Fong Lim the question, because I know that he is really concerned about public safety and also about the safety of public servants who work within the public up here in the Northern Territory. Madam Speaker, I'm eager to share the updates on the significant events underway that we have done to support the corrections workforce, who are a professional service. Over the past 11 months, we've achieved a remarkable progress with over 200 people being recruited into the service. 200 extra officers. This is because we have increased the capacity of the corrections facilities in the Darwin, in the Northern Territory, because we are focused and we are laser focused on community safety. And Madam Speaker, that is the #1 priority of our government. Our new officers will ensure that there are safer facilities, more supervision and more rehabilitation programs available and better outcomes for the offenders, because, Madam Speaker, we want to break the cycle of offending. We want to make sure, unlike the previous Labor government who would just put them into prison and forget about them, we want to make sure there's rehabilitation programs available to ensure that the young people and the people in the adult state come out with a better opportunity in life. There's been standout initiatives, experienced officers from South Australia who've come into the Northern Territory, who are on a rotation out of Alice Springs. They're coming using their experiences from South Australia and learning with our staff here in the Northern Territory and going back. And it's just a mutual benefit for both agencies to be able to work together to make staff safer and offer better programs available. Their presence not only boosted the capacity, Madam Speaker, but also strengthen the operational resilience in the Alice Springs Correctional Centre. Additionally, Madam Speaker, the G4S contract has been signed, which has freed up prison officers to be able to do their job behind the wire. They are professional officers who work into behind the wire, which is our officers, and the G4S are experienced officers who come into the Northern Territory and do the services outside the wire. For example, Madam Speaker, they may do prison escorts where they'll drive from the prison to the local court or to Katherine to the local court. They will sit in the local court and deal with the prisoners who sit there for the day while they're waiting for their turn in court. Madam Speaker, that program or contract has been extended to be able to have those G4S staff go into the hospital sits. When an inmate gets sick and goes to the hospital, presently experienced guards or officers go and sit with that prisoner. G4S will be able to do that, again freeing up the officers to go back behind the wire. This will give us a broader campaign, as well as Alice Springs. There's also prison officers coming from New Zealand over to the Northern Territory to be able to boost our resources.
Expired, Minister. Member for Johnston, what is your question?
Madam Speaker, my question is for the Minister for Lands, Planning and Environment. Minister, the EPA operates air quality monitors at Winnellie, Stokes Hill and Palmerston to measure pollutants, including ozone and sulphur dioxide levels. The Palmerston monitor regularly shows harmful spikes during gas plant emissions, yet over the past 4 days it's recorded 0 readings for both pollutants, while the other monitors show dangerously high levels. Palmerston is the closest monitor to Middle Arm. Is it being disabled to hide the pollution levels people there are being exposed to? More importantly, how can the community trust they're being told the truth about the air they're breathing? What steps is the government taking to ensure people can access accurate, real-time data? And what options do residents have to independently verify pollution levels in their area? Thank you.
Minister for Lands, Planning and Environment.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Johnson, for the question. The Northern Territory Environmental Protection Agency is just that. It's an independent agency, Madam Speaker, that works right across the Northern Territory with proponents to ensure that they are doing the right things when it comes to their environmental regulations and the things that they must be following to ensure that the environment is not damaged as a result of any activities that are undertaken. Thank you, Member for Johnson, for that information in regards to that, I think as you referred to it, the air quality information that had not been updated onto the information. I will certainly go away and find out what has happened in regards to that. What I can say, Madam Speaker, more broadly in regards to what our government are doing in regards to the economy, we are getting on with driving and ensuring that there is development here in the Northern Territory. We all know, Madam Speaker, that for the last 8 years things have ground to a halt and we need to see development here in the Northern Territory. That development needs to be sustainable, though. We need to ensure that we are protecting our environment, that we are ensuring that we are following all the regulations that are in place. And the NTEPA do an exceptional job in regards to that, but the department also does an incredible job in regards to ensuring that all the environmental regulations are being met. In regards to the licensing, in regards to some of our gas was mentioned by the member for Johnson in regards to her question, there have been department that have gone out to site, Madam Speaker, that have gone out to ensure people are complying with their regulations. They are ensuring, Madam Speaker, that all the environmental management plans are being complied with and that the people on the ground are doing the right thing. If they do not do the right thing, Madam Speaker, there are provisions in place to ensure that fines are then executed. What we are doing here in the Northern Territory is making sure...
Take your seat, please, Minister. Member for Johnston, what is your point of order? Do you have one?
Point of order. I thank the Minister for saying he would follow it up. If he could let me know when that's going to happen and how, rather than the rest of the speech.
You don't get 2 bites of the cherry, I'm sorry. Member for Johnston. Minister, please continue. You don't get to ask 2 questions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I understand the member for Johnston's concern in regard to this, and this is why we have these agencies here in the Northern Territory. This is why we have the NTEPA, Madam Speaker. This is why we have an entire department that works, that their core work is to ensure that when people are conducting themselves here in the Northern Territory, when they have industry in place, that they are not impacting the environment in a negative way. And if they do, Madam Speaker, we will ensure that there is a fine in place and that the issues are rectified. That is the work that this government is doing to ensure that we not only ensure that the environment is protected, but we get on with supporting industry, because that's what we've heard loud and clear, Madam Speaker. Things have been too frustrating for many people to do business. We're going to get on. We've been creating a regulatory environment where things can actually happen whilst ensuring that we're also protecting the environment right across the Northern Territory.
Member for Fanny Bay, what is your question?
Thank you,
Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Education and Training. Minister, you've recently announced action on major reforms to secondary education, an area that I'm very interested in. One of the most significant changes to our education system in decades. These reforms impact families and thousands of students across the electorate of Fanny Bay. Students, families and schools have long called for a more contemporary and future-focused approach that better prepares young people for work, further study and life beyond school. Minister, can you please outline what these reforms involve and how they will improve outcomes for students, setting them up for success after school, as well as helping the communities right across the territory?
Minister for Education and Training.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Fanny Bay for her question. As someone who worked in the department previously, I know she's extremely passionate, as am I, for education. In our year of action, certainty and security, we're putting Territory students and families first by replacing the outdated middle school model in Darwin, Palmerston and Alice Springs with a modern comprehensive secondary system that supports real pathways to real jobs. The reform will provide a smoother, more stable journey for students from Year 7 right through to Year 12. It means fewer school transitions, more consistent support and greater access to academic and vocational opportunities. We've acted and we're delivering a major reform to give our students a brighter future, one that's more aligned with how young people learn. In Darwin, we'll see 4 comprehensive high schools offering Year 7 to 12 education at the current Dripstone, Nightcliff, Sanderson and Darwin Middle and High School sites. At Sanderson, we're also developing a new specialist trade and technical college for Years 10 to 12, giving students direct vocational pathways into high-demand industries like construction, engineering and health. And it was a pleasure last week, Madam Speaker, or maybe 2 weeks ago, to be out there with the member for Karama, the member for Wanguri and the member for Sanderson and the member for Casuarina, who all joined me when we did a media release on our reform to middle school. There was a lot of students from all of the feeder schools at the Sanderson site, and they were very excited about their first year into high school next year. Casuarina Senior College will be transformed into a higher education-focused college, supporting academic pathways into professions that will shape the Territory's economic future. In Palmerston, we're establishing 2 comprehensive high schools across the existing Palmerston College sites at Driver and Rosebery, strengthening local access to quality secondary education. In Alice Springs, your electorate, Madam Speaker, we've listened, I've been down there, I've listened to the people concerned down there, to the school community, and are giving them more time in their plan. Changes will begin in Alice Springs in 2027 with a new Year 7 to 12 school at the Centralian Middle School site and a connected trade and flexible education college at the Centralian Senior Campus, designed with local industry. We're taking a phased approach, with full implementation by 2028. This ensures schools, families and students have the time and support they need to transition with confidence. So whether a student is heading toward university, into a trade or combining both, this reform is about giving them support, flexibility and clear pathways they need to succeed. So, Madam Speaker, that's what we're doing in education, and it's been a pleasure to listen to the people on the ground.
Member for Mulca.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to censure the government for their gross neglect to consult with, work with Aboriginal leaders, communities and organisations to create a solution to current problems of crime and disadvantage, and the implementation of laws and policies that significantly increase the incarceration of Aboriginal people in an inadequate and dangerous conditions, without any focus on addressing underlying issues, rehabilitation or pathway for community healing. These actions by the government are contributing to increasingly unsafe communities across every part of the Northern Territory. Thank you.
Leader of Government Business, is the censure accepted?
Madam Speaker, the government does not accept the censure motion. As we've previously indicated many times, Madam Speaker, our government was elected on a platform to reduce crime, rebuild the economy and restore the Territory lifestyle. What we've done so far is introduced a number of laws. We've delivered in regards to our package of reducing crime, rebuilding the economy and restoring the lifestyle. We'll continue to do that, Madam Speaker, and we'll continue to support Territorians who elected us on that platform. The censure motion is not accepted.
Are there any other questions? Member for Goyder.
Madam Speaker, my question is to the Minister for Lands, Planning and Environment. Minister, the Territory's parks and reserves are home to some of our most iconic landscapes. They are an iconic part of our Territory lifestyle. They attract visitors from interstate and overseas. They support local jobs and they protect our unique environment. Minister, you recently made me and many Territorians very happy with the announcement of a significant landmark land acquisition for the Territory. Minister, can you please update the House on the recent acquisition of the Silkwood Estate and explain how this historic move will support the growth of tourism, help restore our Territory lifestyle and deliver long-term benefits for the Territory's economy and the environment?
Minister for Lands, Planning and Environment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Goyder for his question. The recent acquisition of the Silkwood Estate is a historic milestone here in the Northern Territory, Madam Speaker. This 30,000-hectare parcel of land, equivalent to 15,000 TIO stadiums, is the largest addition to the Territory's parks and reserves in 25 years, Madam Speaker. It truly is significant. This is not just a land acquisition, Madam Speaker. It's a strategic investment in our economy, our environment and our future. This is something truly special about our Territory way of life, our identity, Madam Speaker. We promised Territorians that we would restore what was once a thriving lifestyle and economy. We promised that we would open up more places for Territorians to explore our pristine environment, whether through more places to camp, to swim, to hunt, or to head out in your four-wheel drive, as I know the member for Goyder loves to, Madam Speaker. When we came into government last year, we acted on these promises. And earlier this month, through our acquisition of the Silkwood Estate, we have delivered, Madam Speaker. By bringing this land back into public hands, we're opening up a wealth of new tourism opportunities, which continues to be one of our most important and fastest-growing industries. The acquisition lays the foundation for new ecotourism opportunities, more bush camping and walking opportunities. We know how much everyone loves coming down to Central Australia to get on the Larapinta Trail. Now you may very well have your own walking trail up here in the north to go along with the Jatbulla Trail in the member for Katherine and the member for Arnhem. Creating more local jobs, Madam Speaker, attracting more investment and giving more people reasons to explore the Territory, which is something I know that everyone here in this chamber loves to do. The close proximity of the portion of land to Darwin and access to the Stuart Highway makes it an ideal stop for self-driving tourists and benefiting places like the regional town of Adelaide River, which I can confirm, Madam Speaker, still do a great Barra burger here in the Territory. This acquisition will preserve and protect our flora and fauna in the area, being one of the only 3 places in the Northern Territory where a rare and threatened orchid, Zexune oblona, is known to grow. And I apologise, Madam Speaker, for absolutely butchering that name. This land is now protected for the long term. It won't be locked away, but managed in a way that balances access, tourism and responsible, sustainable development, Madam Speaker. We are backing the industries that drive our economy while protecting and restoring what makes the Territory unique. This investment is a testament to this government's commitment to our lifestyle, our landscape and our livability, and we're excited to see Territorians reap the benefits for generations to come, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Member for Mulka, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question to either the Chief Minister or the Minister for Indigenous Affairs. Why will your government not work with Aboriginal leaders, communities and organisations to create solutions to current problems of crime and disadvantage?
Chief Minister or Minister for Aboriginal Affairs?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Member for Mulga, for the question. Madam Speaker, our government is working hard to reduce crime, rebuild the economy and restore the Territory lifestyle after Labor scrapped community government councils back in 2008. And it's important to also recognise, Member for Mulga, not only did they scrap local government councils back in 2008, it was back in 2005 that they scrapped the Northern Territory Law and Justice Strategy. That's an important step that set the Northern Territory back a number of years. In particular, the Law and Justice Agreement was signed 15 years after the Labor government scrapped the Law and Justice Strategy in the Northern Territory. And of course, to add fuel to the fire, Madam Speaker, in 2022 the Labor government scrapped allowed the Stronger Futures legislation to lapse, causing chaos, putting women at risk, putting the community at risk, and of course leading to further alcohol-related harm right across the Northern Territory. Madam Speaker, we are working very closely with Aboriginal peak organisations. As I've said before, Madam Speaker, I co-chair the Northern Territory Executive Council on Aboriginal Affairs. I co-chair that particular Executive Council with Dr John Patterson from APONT. So we are working together with Aboriginal peak bodies, which includes the 4 land councils, Member for Mulga. So the work that's being done right across the board not only includes the Land Council, it includes the NARJA, the Northern Territory Indigenous Business Network, and of course Aboriginal Housing NT. We are working with many organisations in tackling the root causes of crime. We're working through the $4 billion housing agreement to tackle housing in remote areas, $1 billion investment in education. And of course, we're also working together to deliver the $842 million through the Northern Territory Remote Aboriginal Investment Agreement. So when it comes to working with Aboriginal organisations right across the board, we are doing what's needed to be done here in the Northern Territory. We will continue to work right across the board when it comes to tackling these issues. So when...
Take your seat, please, Minister. What's your point of order, Member for Guancha?
110 relevance. The member for Mulga asked directly, not about organisations, about community leaders in remote communities.
Okay, take your seat. Please continue, Minister. 31 seconds.
As I was getting to, yes, we are working with Aboriginal organisations and we're working with leaders right across the board. And one example is the establishment of the Groot Archipelago Regional Council. We're restoring real decision-making at the local level after leadership and council structures were taken away in 2008. We'll continue to work with leaders right across the board when it comes to dealing with local government, when it comes to restoring leadership, when it comes to building those structures to work with government in every remote area right across the Northern Territory.
Member for Karama, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Housing, Local Government and Community Development. Minister, as you know, the Labor opposition speaks the big game about supporting our remote areas, and yet the statistics show this to be a shallow claim. For example, I understand that the Finocchiaro CLP government is continuing to deliver on its commitment to tackle the root cause of overcrowding, with 222 new homes built in remote communities across the Territory. In comparison, under Labor, only 206 homes were delivered in 2023-24. Can you tell us, Minister, about how this remote housing program is delivering meaningful change across the bush, and what is the impact that better housing has for people who've spent years living in overcrowded homes?
Okay, so just pause there. We're getting some commentary from within the chamber. The minister will be heard in silence, or there will be more warnings and more people asked to leave the chamber. Minister for Housing, you've got the call.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Karama for this important question. And member for Karama, you are correct in that our government is continuing to deliver on our commitment to tackle the root causes of crime and overcrowding in communities. And yes, we delivered 222 new homes in remote communities. Madam Speaker, just recently...
Take your seat, please, Minister. Member for Guajar, what is
It'll be good.
your point of order? It's going to be good. That's good.
I genuinely care about the member for Barclay.
What
and
is
the
your point
good
of
work.
order?
Standing
Get
Order
to it.
1, don't want him to mislead Parliament. The reporting period has been 12 months, so it actually
Sit down,
hasn't been
Member
the
for Guajar.
CLP
There's
government.
no point of order. Please continue. I think
Madam
you've run out
Speaker,
of point
and,
of orders. We're at the end of question time. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I know that the member for Guajar is upset about this because delivering a record 222 homes in remote areas, I think it was at estimates, the member for Guajar chipping away there, talking about remote housing, claiming that he had some record of delivering remote houses. Well, here we are, Madam Speaker. Today, I'm here to announce that we've delivered 222 homes in remote communities. In fact, Madam Speaker, the federal Labor government recently labelled the number of homes we have delivered as a record. The federal government said that. The federal government said that in their media release. And the member for Guajar is trying to accuse me of misleading. It was the federal government that said we've delivered 222 homes compared to 206 by the Labor government. So
Please take your seat. Member for Goyder, I know what you're going to say. The noise coming from the opposition is not acceptable. The next person who yells out gets to spend some time reflecting in the outside the chamber. Please, Minister.
So, yes, Madam Speaker, the federal government also said that it was a record. So, through the joint Northern Territory and Australian Government $4 billion 10-year investment, up to 2,700 homes will be built over the next decade to improve living conditions and reduce overcrowding. A further 48 homes, Madam Speaker, are under construction and scheduled for completion around late 2025 or early 2026. As you mentioned, Member for Karama, this represents an increase on the 206 homes delivered in 23-24. In our year of action, certainty and security, we are achieving real progress improving housing in the bush to reduce overcrowding and lift living conditions. As the member for Barclay, I've seen firsthand the impact that better housing has for people who have spent years living in overcrowded homes. And recently I travelled to Mbladowitch to inspect 8 newly completed homes, and it was clear how much this investment will mean to local families. While in the community, I spoke to Mr Jeffrey Morton, one of the traditional owners, and he's also the chairperson of the Mbladowitch Health Centre. He told me that these houses were fantastic development for the community and provided more space for families. This initiative is a strong example of what's possible when governments work hand in hand with Aboriginal housing, organisations and land councils. Madam Speaker, this is a game changer for the Territory. The joint funding is delivering and will continue to deliver in remote areas.
Member for Guajar, what is your question?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question is to the Attorney-General. Attorney-General, you've scrapped funding for law and justice groups despite the fact they've been helping to reduce crime in our communities. You scrapped funding for programs to divert young people away from crime. When are you going to admit, Attorney-General, that your law and order regime is dangerous failing and that you are likely causing more harm in our communities? Attorney-General, how many law and justice groups in remote communities have you bothered to visit since becoming the Northern Territory's Attorney-General? How many community organisations in remote communities who work to combat crime and antisocial behaviour have you bothered to meet with?
Attorney-General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the member for Guajar for the question. And it's really interesting that he sits over there and pretends like the CLP government has scrapped the law and justice group funding, because it was actually Labor that scrapped it. There was no continued funding for law and justice groups under your forward budgets. It was a cliff funding. All fell off when we came to government. So I don't know what you were going to do if you did win, but they certainly were not funded. And like I said before, Madam Speaker, of the 5 current law and justice groups that have just commenced, they've only been in operation for a short time since the first Aboriginal Justice Agreement was signed many, many years ago, we are looking at that data. when we can have a full evaluation, which will happen later this year after enough time has gone past to see if those law and justice groups are working really well in the community and they are actually making a difference to reduce crime, then we'll look at it. But what I can tell you, Madam Speaker, is this is really important information for Territorians to understand, is that those law and justice groups are set up cost Territorians their taxpayer money $500,000 per law and justice group to set up. So it's a really significant investment for Territorians. So as Attorney General, I'm not going to just sit there and sign a cheque for more and more to be expanded and for more and more of those law and justice groups to be right across the Territory if we don't even know if they're working yet. This is a new program for the Territory. It's something that we absolutely need to make sure we get right if we're going to continue to invest in those groups and invest heavily, I might add.
Take your seat, please, Minister. What's your point of order? Member for Gudger.
Relevance, I asked you a direct question. You're criticising these law and justice groups. How many have you met in remote Aboriginal communities? How many have you sat down with and spoken with?
Member for Gudger. Minister, please continue.
Madam Speaker, I can't believe you're saying that I'm criticising the law and justice groups. I am absolutely not. What I'm saying to Territorians is we need to look at these to make sure they're working. Do you know what, Madam Speaker? If something is working really well, then Territorians will be absolutely prepared to invest in it. And that'll mean, as me as Attorney General, will be prepared to sign that cheque to make it happen, because we do want to reduce crime. Unlike Labor, who was just offender-focused the whole time, we're actually putting the rights of victims first. And that's why we're slowing the law and justice groups to
Minister,
the pace of
take your
evaluation.
seat. It better be good.
It is good, I promise you that. Standing Order 110, law and justice group members are Territorians. And how many have you met with, Attorney General? How many have you met with?
Take your seat. Member for Gwadja, you cannot use a point of order to introduce new content and give your own speech. Please, Minister, you will finish your answer with no interruptions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I will pick up on the questioning around visiting law and justice groups. I think what Labor don't understand, which is very different to the CLP, is that we actually work as a big team of the CLP. We used to do it in opposition when we used to travel right around the Territory, and we do it as government right around the Territory as well. That doesn't mean we all have to be in exactly the same place at the same time and visit every single place.
I did say no interruption, so Member for Goyder, you can sit down too. Minister, please continue.
We have very capable ministers that are travelling across the Territory. We have Barclay that's really well represented. Minister Edgington goes down, that's his home, so of course he represents that. We've got Alice Springs, we've got Katherine, we've got right across the Territory, right? We go out right across the Territory and we make no apologies for doing that. And we work as a team together, Madam Speaker. We work as a team together, which means we actually talk to each other all the time. We get along. I know you don't get along over there and you're always infighting, and you always have, which is probably why you didn't govern for the Territory. You were governing for yourselves, but here we're a team.
Your time has expired and there'll be no more interjections across the chamber. Member for Fanny Bay, we're cruising into overtime for question time, but that's the call of the government.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure. Minister, supporting regional communities with infrastructure that keeps people safe while also strengthening local life is a smart and practical approach, particularly in areas prone to extreme weather. The people of Borroloola have long advocated for better facilities that can serve both as community hubs and emergency shelters. Can you please update the House on how the CLP government is delivering on that vision, and what the recent completion of the Borroloola Sports and Cyclone Shelter means for the community in terms of both safety and everyday use?
Minister for Logistics and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the member for Fanny Bay for the question. And it's great to see this new cyclone shelter completed in Borroloola. And I know that my very close friend, the member for Barclay, is very happy to see this project completed. I think he's going to run on this one in Borroloola for quite some time to get that job over the line. And there was some updates that had to be done, which made the ending part of the project just a little bit more complex, but I'm glad to see that it's finished. And of course, the member for Barclay is a very strong supporter of the communities in his region. And again, I'm proud to say that the CLP government has delivered the brand new $11.7 million Borroloola Sports and Cyclone Shelter. And it's a facility that's ready for action, whether it's a game day or cyclone season. And we all know the regional weather events we see in some parts of the Territory. And this facility is an impressive build in the heart of the community. And this isn't, Madam Speaker, just a basketball court with a few extras. It's a purpose-built, dual-use facility that can house up to 600 people during an emergency. And when the skies are clear, it's a place for sports, it's a place for fundraisers, markets and community events which support the community and region around Borroloola. It's built to the highest cyclone safety standards, Madam Speaker, and this shelter means locals don't have to choose between safety and community life. They can get both. They're able to stay in community when we have inclement weather events, when we have cyclones, and they don't have to be displaced. There is somewhere safe for them to stay should they wish to remain in their communities. This is another example, Madam Speaker, of the CLP delivering what matters: practical, smart solutions and regionally focused infrastructure that builds resilience and brings people together. Multi-use facilities aren't just a smart solution, they are an absolute great return on investment, Madam Speaker. So instead of building separate facilities for different needs, we're delivering infrastructure that works harder, lasts longer and provides year-round value to the community. The facility, Madam Speaker, is finished and it's open and it's already making a difference. We funded this project alongside the MacArthur River Mine Community Benefits Trust with $9.8 million from the Northern Territory Government, delivered through a grant to the Roper Gulf Regional Council, and another $1.9 million from that trust. Madam Speaker, this was local jobs, local input, and it is local benefit. The people of Borroloola now have a safe place to shelter and a community-centric space to connect and enjoy. And the CLP government is proud to deliver exactly that, Madam Speaker. Infrastructure with purpose and infrastructure built for the community and infrastructure that supports the community in its future development.
Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that any further questions be placed on the written notice paper.